I want to thank Enzo, obviously, for inviting me to come speak here. I come to New York a lot, but I don't often come here. In fact, the last time I was here, I actually made a wrong turn and got off on Route 80, ended up over here somehow. I just wanted to open up with a little clip of something, and I'll tell you why in a minute about it. So hopefully this works.
How do you do? My name is Alfred Hitchcock, and I would like to tell you about my forthcoming lecture. It is about the birds and their age-long relationship with man. In my lecture, I hope to make you all aware of our good friends, the birds. Planning the lecture has been most educational for me. I've begun to feel very close to the birds and have developed a real sympathy for our little... What was I saying? Oh yes, I've come to feel very close to the birds and have come to realize how they feel when... I don't think I'll eat just now. Hardly proper with all of you here. Surely the birds appreciate all we've done for them. Don't you? Beautiful cage, fresh water. Oh! Now why would he do that?
That's a little short that a group made and presented to me to look at coming on board their advisory board for their technology company. And I get a lot of that all the time about getting involved in different things. And I thought it was a cute little thing to start off with because it's a way that they are trying to attract business and attract my attention, and then they're going to go and formulate their business plan behind that type of structure. So a little bit about me, and I'll tell a little bit more about me towards the end of this. You know, life starts off with choices, and you have choices every day to do things one way or the other. And my college choice was to go to Notre Dame. I got out of high school and I thought that I could go apply and do these things, and I applied to a bunch of different schools. And unfortunately, Notre Dame didn't accept me. And so I had a choice to go to one of the secondary colleges I applied to, or go to Notre Dame, or I'm sorry, or go to somewhere else. Penn State was not on my list of places to go. And I realized I didn't like any of the secondary schools I applied to, so I scrambled and was able to get myself into Penn State on the wait list and got through and went to Penn State. And one of the reasons I was able to get into Penn State is because I had networked through my high school connections to figure out some people who could help me get into Penn State at the last minute. I was a hockey player, and when I went to Penn State, I intended to play hockey, Notre Dame or Penn State. And when I got to Penn State, I realized that's not something that I was going to do. So I had some connections and friends that played basketball, so I became a women's college basketball player at Penn State. Right, that's bizarre, but explain what that means. Well, I was one of the practice guys against the women at Penn State, and we practiced against the women and men's team. So when I put on my resume after I graduated in September 11th of 2001, I graduated December actually, women's college basketball player. And so every interview I got, everybody said, this must be a typo, you put women's college basketball player. I said, no, I was a women's college basketball player. And so they said, well, explain that. And I said, well, here's what I was on the practice squad, so I was this, and it opened up the conversation with them, and then they related to what I was saying. The other thing that was very helpful in my interviews were the fact that Penn State, I was looking for jobs in Pennsylvania, and a lot of people had a relative or friend that went to Penn State. So one of the underlying themes of what I'm hoping to accomplish today is to instill the idea of networking into you and how important it is in the business world today. So a few things. Basically, I'll try not to bore you too much, but I want to give you kind of my thoughts on successful businesses, how sports and business relate, some key career skills, a case study of my personal business life, and something about your brand, and then who I am and who are you, and then some other things that I'm involved in. So my personal premise on business and job world and the market is do something that you like. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the job itself, but something in the job that you like. Okay, maybe I like writing, so I'm going to do a lot more writing on these different things. When I got out of college in 2001, there were no jobs. September 11th had just happened, and there was a very difficult job market. I went on, I think, 26 different interviews. I got offered a few jobs, and they were like $26,000 a year. I had a few dollars that I was day trading stocks. And I was making more money day trading the stocks than I could have made the whole year at doing a job that I had been offered. So I did that, but I really didn't like it. I didn't like trading stocks. It was basically me sitting in front of a computer screen, picking and choosing. And so I started to branch out and do different things. So I started to volunteer, and I got involved in politics. So I volunteered for a local political party, and I ended up realizing how great the network of people was at that place. So they set me up with a computer and let me do a couple of day trades of stocks, but then when people walked in the door, I'd hand them a pamphlet or do whatever. And I knew nothing about politics, and I didn't care about politics, but I liked meeting people. So secondly, I think you have to try. Try different things, try different things within your job, and don't be afraid to step out and do something that you've never done before. Third, have a goal, and it can change, you know. My goal when I was 18 years old was to go to Notre Dame, and that got crushed. And I remember that day. I'm sitting there, the letter comes in, and my whole family gathers around because they're all excited, and everybody's there. I have 5 brothers, so 3 of my brothers are there. Most of them are younger. The letter comes in the mail. My dad gets the letter, brings it in, and I see it, and I'm like, it's the skinny letter, not the fat letter. So I know I'm screwed. so he opens up the letter in front, and it's like, he reads it, and it's like, we're sorry to not let you in. So it was a big crushing moment in my life, and so it motivated me to do other things in life. So have a goal, and it always will change. Goals change every day. Ask for advice. This is a very important part, back to my networking theme. There's a lot of smart people around all of us, whether it's your coach, your cousin, someone who did something before. People love to give you advice if you ask them. And it's very important, because a lot of people have gone through things that you may not have gone through before. It's very simple to ask them for advice. My personal economic philosophy is, and I'm sure the professors and deans might disagree with me, is I believe that our country, at least, is a demand-driven economy where people constantly strive to find a demand, and I think there's 2 reasons why. One, to make something easier. So I'm going to make an escalator so that people don't have to walk as far. Or 2, come on in. Make something enjoyable. So you're not going to try and make something that someone doesn't like. So, a video game, it's enjoyable. So that's why people make them. And that kind of drives my entire business philosophy from the entrepreneur angle. Then have a process and achievement. You could have a great idea, you could have a great demand, you could have all these things, but you got to have a way to implement that, and then you got to have a benchmark of how and why you achieve that goal. And then network and resources. I keep touching on this. It's very important to continue to build your network and use the resources around you that are free or available or any of that. The one thing I consistently remember was I was in a marketing class at Penn State my senior year, and we did this whole thing, and I couldn't remember anything from that class today if you told me, but someone asked her on the last day, what's the most important thing we could learn in this class? And she said, network. And her class had nothing to do with networking. And so everybody was like, what? And she said, I still am a professor here at Penn State because I networked. My division got shut down, and I kept going on and on and on. Obviously adapt. The world changes, things get thrown your way, and the ability to see something coming and then respond to it is very important. And then learn from failures. I'll show you an example in a little bit about a massive failure that I had personally that is still going on, and I've learned from others' mistakes how to correct that issue. Then ultimately you should have positive results. So sports and business. You know, I was an athlete. I'm sure most people have done something, played a game, played a sport together with somebody, and some of you are probably student athletes here. You're really in training already. The business world is the sports world, in my opinion. There's competition. You'll always be facing competition in the business world, and you do it on the field here too. Teamwork. It's very important that you work with the other members on your team to accomplish a goal. And that goes hand in hand with reliability. Nobody wants to work with the guy or the girl that doesn't show up or is late or doesn't do those things. It's the little things that you can do. Passing the ball to someone who's going to catch the ball. Leadership. Leadership is something that I think boils to the top. And you can take different skills and learn how to do those different things. But ultimately, it's putting yourself in position to be a leader. And then sportsmanship. I think this is the most underrated thing in today's world, business world anyway. Being able to win at the cost of stepping on everybody else, I don't think is the right way to do it. And ultimately, I think it catches up to you. And so being able to win and still make others appear and feel that they didn't get stepped on is important. So how does that translate to the private equity world? Again, back to my demand thing. There are opportunities that are presented to you through your network. So I had a deal come in the email to me this morning on the way over here. And it's from somebody who has something, they don't know exactly what to do with it, so they brought it to me and said, can you help me figure this out? And so I said, sure, I'll take a look at it. So you got to understand what you have. So if someone presents something to you, let's take a look at it, see if I can understand it. If I can't understand it, I want to go to my network or my advisors or some friend and say, help me understand this. Then you want to be able to take action. Do I like the deal? Do I not like the deal? Am I going to do it or am I not going to do it? And how am I going to do it? That leads into the operations. What team are you going to assemble to help you do that deal? And then obviously set your goals and outcomes, and then ultimately everything relies upon the delivery of what you've said, unless you get lucky. So here's my real world example. And I didn't tell a whole lot about what I'm involved in or the different businesses I'm in. I'm a movie producer. I own a movie production company. I make Hollywood movies. And while that sounds all well and great, it's one of the worst businesses you can be in. So I was a passive investor in a movie in 2004. Not a lot of money, but it did really well. And so a couple guys came to me and said, we heard you invest in movies. We want you to get involved in this investment. Can we approach you and do this? I said, sure, but I want to make a company and run it like a business and all these different things. We did a movie, and it didn't work out exactly as it was supposed to. But then this other movie came in, and I said, I think I understand what I'm doing. I'm going to go do this. And so the movie business is fairly simple from a business standpoint in that there's really two markets. And I'm going to give you a crash course on the movies, and hopefully it doesn't confuse you at all. There's an international market and a US market. And then there's the theatrical market, and then there's all the ancillary revenue streams like DVD, VOD, and all those different things. And then there's tax incentives per state to actually film a movie. So take a movie, let's just assume this movie cost $1 million for simplicity's sake. You go out and you get a foreign sales agent who will give you a representation of what they think they can sell your movie on based upon the cast, the genre, the budget. So that makes up about 40 to 60% of your pre-cost. So 400,000 to 600,000, you have a sales estimate from a foreign company that's reputable that says they can sell it for that. You then have a 25% domestic tax credit per state. I shot this movie in Pennsylvania, so I had 250,000 coming back from that, backed by the state of Pennsylvania. I'm sorry, that's a tax credit. And then the domestic is just the US release. So I stepped into this movie knowing that I was going to get 110% of my money back or 80% of my money back theoretically, right? Or sorry, 90%. And my whole deal was based upon my domestic release partner. Everybody in the world cares what happens in the United States. So I go and make the movie. We spend the money, we go through the whole routine, and then the curveball. My domestic distributor goes bankrupt. So I have no domestic distributor. So I called the foreign guy and say, okay, well, this guy's going bankrupt, I'm going to go find another domestic distributor. He says, that 40 to 60% is now 10. And I say, well, what do you mean it's 10? We need a theatrical release for this movie to work, or we don't even want to sell it. The tax credit's the only thing that stuck around because it didn't know any better. So I now have a movie, and this is in 2009, that has no domestic release and basically no foreign release. And now I've spent all the money. And now I have to figure out how to do that. And I was new into the business. I didn't have a lot of Hollywood connections. I didn't have a lot of distribution connections. I didn't know a lot of people. I thought I knew what I was doing. So I learned the hard way. That movie has not yet been released. Fortunately, it comes out tomorrow. So after 4 years of learning and waiting for DVD which was declining, which was basing all the foreign domestic numbers, waiting for VOD to come back up where they actually met to actually have a chance at making the money back on the movie. But I only got there by networking in Hollywood. I went and met everybody I could to figure out how to get this thing to where it is today. So branding, and this is more back to the networking and understanding. You really are your brand, whether you're an athlete, an individual, a businessman, any of that. And when I say the name like Nike, Coke, McDonald's, Apple, something pops right in your head. When you say your name, Lance Armstrong, he had a great brand. Then what happened, right? So nobody's going to give him money for what he's doing. And money isn't the end result here. It's being able to transact a business deal or work in a company with somebody else so that they'll actually ask you the question and then you can help them and then you can present it to the boss with them or anything like that. And that's where the tweets and the Facebook and the Instagram world that we're now in, I'm a little bit older than you, but I'm on Twitter and I'm on Facebook and I just joined Instagram. And you see everything now. There's no hiding anything. In fact, I don't have any proof of this, but I think Facebook actually takes the pictures and classifies you per where you are. Okay, you go to the beach a lot. Let's put beach ads in front of her. So it's a very important thing, especially if you're an athlete or you're in a business where you're getting bigger and bigger, or you have your own business. Maybe three of you decide to get out of here and go start a widget firm, and you now have to go out into the marketplace and sell your product. Nobody's going to buy something for you if they don't think you're going to deliver what they want. So who am I? Who am I the person? I think that's the most important part. You got to understand who you are in the long run of life to be able to be a successful business person, I think. You know, my biggest flaw is I like to do a lot of different things, and I get spread way too thin. And I often take on things that I shouldn't take on, so I have to always try and bounce it off an advisor or go to an Enzo and say, Enzo, what do you think of this? And so in 2005, I was asked by my network to run for office in Pennsylvania, state rep. I ran for office, and I had a 60-day campaign because it was a guy got removed from office and it was a special election. I ended up losing by 72 votes. So it was 50-50, right? We counted the votes 4 times, right? And at the last 72nd hour before the campaign, information was made available to me that would have severely damaged my candidate, would have totally made him lose. And it would have totally ruined his family, totally. And the guys on my campaign from the state were like, we're releasing the commercial. And I said, I'd rather lose than release that and damage his family. I don't care enough about winning to do that. That's important. I got a lot of pushback. Nobody wanted to be my friend after that. And I lost. Now, had I not lost, had I won, I'd be in Harrisburg doing whatever I'd be doing. But I would have never done the movie thing. And I would have never met Enzo. And I would have never done a whole different thing. So the curves in life are there for a reason. And at the end of the day, for me, it's about being able to live with myself at the end of the day. And you are also part of what your surroundings and environment. You're identified by your school, you're identified by your friends, and you're identified by your successes and failures. If you do well on a test, people know, or if you have a good basketball game, and it becomes a lot about who you are. And you're definitely part of the company you keep. My first movie partner, business partner, was not a good person. And all he cared about was taking our money and being famous. And he did that, he got both. And it was in 2006, it was my first experience to someone who's in it for themselves and not in it for the whole thing. So, and I knew it. I knew it day one, but I thought I could manage it. And so my intuition said, don't be partners with him. But my ego said I can control it. And the truth is, I couldn't. So we ultimately parted ways. So some of the things that I'm involved in, and I just put a couple things on here. I'm a partner in a wealth advisory firm here in Princeton, New Jersey. Samarian Group is a financial institution. Well, it's not an institution. It's tough to explain. We do a lot of different deals, everything from management consulting. And Smithfield Street Productions is my film and production company. Zuet Effects is a company that first video was about. That's Zuet Effects. And I am going to accept being part of that company, and we're going to go do animated videos and feature films that are positive content. Voyager Jet Center is a family company where I serve as, to this day, for all of my family's companies, which is a lot of different ones, I serve as the government relations director for all of them. So whenever we have an issue with a law or something like that, I go and take the meetings with the various representatives around the country or in the state or wherever we're doing business. And I still do business management and development for Voyager as it comes. I introduce private net worth guys to the Jet Center thing. And Blazer Capital Management is a company I'm a partner in that we manage the lifestyles, control their investments for athletes and entertainers. So we have a lot of high-profile clients that, we pay their bills and we get them cars and we get them into restaurants and we do the concierge type stuff for that. And I put that up there just so that you have questions if you have any questions. I think there was one more slide, I guess, there. So just some things that might spark some questions. This is the movie Hollywood and Wine, which comes out supposedly tomorrow, but I haven't been able to find it yet, so we'll find out. Lifeguard actually came out today. These are two movies I executive produced, both of them. I think that movie is this one's in 30 theaters, Lifeguard, and it comes out on VOD and different things today. And that's a story of success from learning from my failure. We went into that one, knew what we were doing, set a budget, adhered to the budget, had the distribution, had everything go according to plan, had a curveball, but replaced the curveball because we knew and learned and had good advisors that helped us through it. And the ultimate good story is the movie Hollywood and Wine will come out, and hopefully everybody goes and watches it in the whole country and we make a lot of money. So that's all I really had as remarks. I'd love to entertain some questions or thoughts or anything that piques your interest, and nothing's out of bounds, as long as Enzo says so.
No, and folks, I just wanted to say to you, and I just found this out recently, Mike's father is a graduate of St. Benedict's Prep, right down the block. I just found that out. Yes, I've known Mike for years, and I just found that out. And as you guys know from knowing me in class, I was born on 3rd Avenue in the old Italian section in Newark, so we're all right from here. So we're here today, even though we have class afterwards and all this, but we want to know what you guys think. So please don't be bashful to ask Mike any questions. So if there's questions you have, please, we want to talk about what you guys want to talk about instead of you've heard me lecture endlessly, right, for a month. And Mike talked for about a half an hour today, but please, we'd really like almost a question for everybody. So if you want to start asking some questions about your careers, what you should pursue, please, ask Mike, because we want to talk about what you want to talk about. So go ahead, guys, go ahead.
Sports.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
What was your major in college?
My major in college was marketing. Well, I'll go back. I applied as a science chemistry major and got into Penn State as a science chemistry major, and then realized that I wasn't going to do science and chemistry in my opinion, so I got out of that and I became a marketing and business law minor. And So I graduated with marketing and business law, which go back to maybe that's why this demand thing is in my head. I believe everything comes from the demand side of things, and I think the marketing is how you expose the demand, how you get to that demand. Thank you.
Where's Rachel? Where's Rachel? Oh, Rachel, remember the hedge fund stuff? What are some of your thoughts on hedge? We'll get back to the guy, Mayfield, we'll get back to Rachel, what are some of your hedge fund ideas?
I mean, I don't really have any ideas. I'm trying to get into that industry. Right now I'm a biomedical science major, so trying to make the transition without having a finance major is something I'm trying to break into it.
So yeah, Mike, give us some.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't take any finance classes, and we're doing huge bond instrument trades, which, I mean, I read as much as I can, and I call Enzo when I have a real question. But so you know, I think just in getting involved in some of that, even like an internship. Yeah, because there's no better way to learn something than doing it, and there are a ton, you know, there's probably not a whole lot of paid internships, but I'll always take an intern that's willing to work hard, and my rule of thumb is don't cause me to work more than I have to. So if you really are interested in learning and coming in, I think an internship is a great way to do that. And to that end, there's two different ways to go, and that's back to identifying yourself. Do you feel like you're a big firm person, or do you feel like you're a small firm person where you can intimately be involved in every aspect? Or do you feel like, hey, I'm really good at doing this, and this is what I want to do, so that's why I'm going to go the big firm route. So, I mean, that would be my, yes?
And Mike, although I'm not a student, we've talked.
We're always students.
Yeah, we're always learning. And like Mike, what I went to college for, I'm not doing now. I found something that I liked, and I've learned from that, and I've learned on the job. So Mike, you talked about when you network and meet with people and partners, what do you look for when you try to affiliate with someone? You like someone of like mind, like skills, or someone of different skills? I know we always talk about character and integrity, and it's always the sale, but the devil's in the detail.
Oh yeah.
So how do you?
So good question, very loaded. Let me see if I can weave through that. I'm getting to the age where I don't have to do deals with people I don't want to do deals with. So in my early career, I'd like to keep it in my perspective, I did things like the movie thing that I had to deal with some people I didn't want to deal with. But nowadays, I only want to deal with people I want to deal with. And so for me, that is someone who's going to be honest with me and tell me, hey, I was supposed to do this and I couldn't do it. And here's my hat in hand, help me get it done, or I can't do it, I need someone else to help me. So first and foremost, I want someone with integrity. And I think Warren Buffett says the same thing, right, Enzo? Integrity is the most important part of that. And then I like people who come at things a different way than me. I'm a big picture guy. I like to paint the big picture. We want to go from, I want to see the mural on the wall, and I don't care how you do it, just tell me what piece you're going to do, and then if you need help, ask me. From a partnership standpoint, working together. And doing a deal with somebody, but I want to know that they're carrying their weight. So if they ask for X, deliver X. If you ask for Y, deliver Y. And that comes down to different complementing skill sets. Working with people that work like me is like, that's good, but we already got me. So let's get someone who doesn't represent me. And that's how I approach it anyway. So hope that answered the question.
And folks, just to lead into what Mike just talked about, and I don't know if I've said this in class to you guys in the past, but everybody's background at Samarian is very different. And I'm the guy, the math guy, the physics guy, the computers. I'm the classical NJIT, Newark College of Engineering person. But the president of Samarian Group is a former minor league baseball player. You've heard Mike's background from politics, and our other guy Peter in Chicago. He's a very international guy with a lot of international finance experience. It's the picture of multiple different painted people, and I just want to relate this because there's a student who's kept in touch with me. I taught the corporate finance course, the 315, about 2 years ago, and there was a student in there who was a chemical engineering major who was taking finance as an elective, and she stayed in touch with me over the years, and already she's on her second job. And one of the things that she's confides in me as to how her job is going is everyone's the same. And the company that she works for, where she makes those statements about, are struggling very much. So I don't think that statement that she's made and how the corporate performance of that company that those are so disconnected that if you just had everybody as identical, you know, I don't think that that's maybe the greatest soup. I think our reason for our success is because we're all so different, but we all get along. And I'll tell you, one of the big characteristics of Samarian is we all debate the issues without making it personal and without hating each other because this guy, I might disagree with Mike, but he doesn't hate me because I disagree with him, or Alfred or Peter or something like that. That's a skill, that whole conflict resolution thing. That's a touchy thing, and that's just something that I want you guys to keep in mind. Montana, you had a question, please. We don't want to forget. Go ahead, Montana. What's your question?
When you graduated from Penn State, and you said when you first got out you were in trading stocks, how did you get involved in it?
I had a friend, and I had a Schwab account. So I signed up myself on a Schwab account. I had a few dollars and on my own that I would basically gifted from my parents to me. And I went and sat down with, believe it or not, 2 old guys from a really steel industry town outside of Pittsburgh that literally sat in their room all day and read everything and anything and did it. And I said, what's a good stock to buy? And they said, Elon Pharmaceuticals. And I said, what's Elon Pharmaceuticals? They said, they gave me the whole breakdown. And I go, well, where should I buy and where should I sell? And they said, well, we think it'll go from here to here. And so I went and did it, like total gamble. Like I did my 10-day research on it and did my thing and did it. And then I got into it. And then I started reading all the things and doing all these different things. So I basically did it on my own through a Schwab account. And you know, it morphed into where I was doing a multiple of things, and people were then asking me to, what's my advice and what do you think on these things? And I did really well. Elon Pharmaceutical that year went from $1 to $27. And so I did well. And so it was easy in my mind. And then I realized after a year in talking to the old guys who sit in the room, and they said, you should stop doing this because there's no way you can repeat this performance again. And I did. I stopped. I didn't like it. I sat there in front of the computer all day reading these things. It just wasn't my thing. And I took that proceeds and started doing other things. I invested in a restaurant. I bought a piece of real estate. I created a movie production company. I did all these different things that were presented to me that I liked and thought that I'd be good at. Just because I liked it didn't mean I necessarily did it, but I thought I could bring value to whatever I was doing. So I guess that was a really roundabout answer to the question. Schwab account. Yeah.
How are you able to manage all the different things that you're in charge of?
My assistant is phenomenal. I really, you know, it's kind of funny. During the week I don't get to sleep much, but it's really about, for me, it's picking the right operations people and the things I'm doing. And everybody, in my opinion, that you work with should make, not everybody, but most people should make everything easier. And so for me, I put a very good operations guy in front of the movie company, so he manages that process. Real estate development, I have somebody there. And so I more or less, like I said, I'm big picture. I like to keep myself above and get reported to on things and then fix problems and steer the direction of things. But day to day, I try to keep above that and get the right people to work for me. So managing it is hard. It's the hardest thing I have to do, I think, because I do take on a lot of things. Anything else? Yeah?
You're obviously a very successful person. You deal with other successful people. What are some of the traits that are common across the people that you deal with that separate them from average person?
I think ambition and follow through are 2 really important traits. I thank you for saying I'm obviously successful, but I tell a good story, right? But you know, and that's a good success. What is success? I mean, to me, success is at the end of the day accomplishing something and making the world a better place, at least as I see it out there, whether it's through a business thing or helping somebody or making money or whatever it is. So I think ambition is something, and follow through are 2 very important characteristics. And the ability to manage or work with others is very important, unless you're doing something that doesn't require that on any level. And you know, again, back to the, I was telling a story the other day. If you, let's say let's do a typical deal. So we have a product, an idea, we need capital, and we need to sell this product, make this product and sell it. So I look at that and say, it's not my idea, someone came up with that idea. It's not my, I don't have the money, so I don't know how I'm gonna do that. I'm good at selling this though. I know how to sell this thing. And then, I forget the fourth thing I said, but the key to that is being able to find those people that know how to do that well, I think, and partner with those type of people. So find the guy that had the idea. There's a lot of money out there. You don't necessarily have to have it to be successful. You can go find someone that will loan you money or give you money or partner with you. And so as long as you can find yourself in the cog on that wheel and work with the right people, I think that's part of the success of business. So I half answered your question. I'm a politician, you have to let that go. Yes?
Like, could you tell us what sort of lessons did you learn from college that have been very helpful to you in your professional career?
Good question. Okay, so college to me was a dry run at everything you'll run into in the world. Going to class, doing papers and presentations, learning how to speak. In fact, I was the shyest guy ever all my life, and I hated public speaking. I was the worst. I would get nervous. I mean, it was awful. And I remember my first political speech, I had to get up and give this speech and debate a lawyer who was the son of the former mayor who I was running against in front of 500 people with news crews. And I was mortified. It was the first time I ever had a panic attack. And I just sat there and I said, you know what? I can't, if I mess up, so what? This guy's expected to win. I don't know what I'm doing. So one of the things I learned was you have to try things. So college is a place to try things on every level and experiment and do a paper about something, take an idea and run with it. From what I learned, you know, there's various skills that you learn. So that's a given, how to do Java or whatever you would learn in college. But really the ability to interact with others, try different things, and have an experience that resembles the work world. So the most concrete things that I took out of it was actually doing the work together, which I hated in college, but working with others in small groups on a project. So those types of things. Yeah.
Like how exactly do you network well, and when should you start?
So, you know, that's a good question. I'm very fortunate because I have a big family. I am one of, I have 5 brothers and 80 first cousins. So we have a huge family. So we always had these events and met a lot of different people, and just always, I don't want to say like, I'm always looking for something to do. It's just the nature of me. I'm always a deal. I always want to do the next deal, and whether it's just going to the bar and having a beer, I'm always looking for that next thing to do. And so for me, it was about just always being perceptive of how could we work together? What could we do together? And anywhere, walking down the street in New York City, you can run into somebody and say, hey, you want to grab coffee? Like, it's just about, it's about, I mean, I was standing in line with the Fox News guy was in front of me. And I don't know. Starbucks. It was at the Starbucks right next to Fox News. I never met the guy. He didn't know me, and he probably thought I was whatever. And I said, hey, I'm Mike. Nice to meet you. I saw your show 20 days ago, and it was great. And, and then he started talking to me. And this guy doesn't know me, and whether that, you know, he didn't give me his business card. But if I see him at that Starbucks again and I say something, I know he'll be like, what's your deal? You know, so it's just about presence. And you know, and it's always, you know, go into events. Go to different events. Go to the social events in the city, and go to the, I mean, you are very fortunate where you are here that you can go into New York City, because there's no better place to network than in New York City. Even at bar, I hate to say it in the setting, but you go to a bar, there's people that you can talk to at a bar that have, you know, you never know what they're going to be from.
Both coaches are here and Pius is here, and I just wanted to make this comment to you guys that, you know, I've dealt with your students, you know, this summer, and something I want to bring up that's very important. And again, you know, my background, I know a lot of physics, a lot of calculus, a lot of computer, you know, programming. I'm that classical, you know, Newark College of Engineering guy. But your students, and I was the most skeptical person in the world about athletes in college and things like that. And here, I'll tell you this story, and it's somewhat funny, and I hope the class forgives me when I tell the story. You know how there's a pre-college program, how there's a lot of, you know, high school kids and grammar school kids around? I was looking at the number of students that were in this class, in the 218 class, for the whole summer, seeing how many people. It was like 8 people, 10 people. I walked into the room. There was like 15 or 20 people in there, and I thought I was in the wrong classroom. And I looked at them. I've never lived this down, apparently. I said, are you guys pre-college students? And everybody's mad at me for saying that, because they all look, I saw how scared it is that they look so much younger. But the point I was trying to make was the competitive fire that your team members, your basketball players have, really impressed me to the floor. I mean, they're very, very competitive people. They can handle pressure, and I think that's fantastic. And I really want to acknowledge to Jim and Steve the job that you've done in making them serious. They come to class, they listen. I've got no missing tests. Everybody comes to every class. I mean, I think I'm dreaming right now. I mean, because so it's really, I really want to, in front of eyes, I really want you guys to know how well they've done. I hope we can continue to work together in the future, summers ahead, where we can get all of your guys in the 315 and the 218 class, because I think it's really what they need. And I really want to acknowledge the job you've done, because they've been fantastic. So I just want you to know that. So.
He did say that before this, so I can vouch for that.
Talk about competitive advantage.
Competitive advantage. That's more your lane. But and on the networking thing, it's a guy like Enzo and your coach and your friend. I mean, everybody knows somebody that you don't know, and it's always good to just keep meeting people. And you never know where something's going to pop out of. I need more on that. What competitive advantage?
Well, they don't wilt at competition. That's one of the most important things. They don't fall.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very important part. That's back to what's one of the things that I think an attribute that is of successful people is the will not to. I don't want to say lose, because it's not losing, but to not quit. To always keep going to the end until the buzzer blows at the last thing, even if you're down 14 points or whatever it is. And you got to leave it all on the floor. And if you do that, you don't always win. Believe me, I lose a lot. But at the end of the day, I hopefully get back up every time I have so far and keep going on to the next thing. So it's that competition that is very important. I agree.
Hey, Mike, do me a favor.
One more question.
Is it hard for you not to give in the business that you're involved in, whereas other people, or you spoke on, winning without having to step on other people and making them feel less? How do you maintain the idea that you have where you win without hurting other people?
Good layered question. Here's how I would say. I always try and make someone else think that the idea is theirs. So I'm doing a side sales pitch on them to convince them that the idea came from them if I disagree, okay? If I'm straight up competition, it's better to build my house and tell how great my house is than say how bad his is. And so 9 times out of 10, and there's always that one time, and you can win and win and win and keep stepping until you can't step anymore. But I'd rather people say, well, he built a really nice house, but I went and got this other house that this guy told me was better, and you know what? It wasn't better, or whatever, because I'm confident that I can deliver on what I say I can do. I might not be the best, but I'm telling you, if I can build a house for you, this is what I'm going to build you, and I'm going to deliver on what I say I do. So for me, it's about talking about what I can do, and not about cutting out someone else or cutting on someone else. Now, I feel like our culture recently becomes that, New York Stock Exchange and cutthroat. Now, there is an element of that, quick to the punch, get to the goal line, but that's just a very small sector. Trading bonds on the market is going to be like that. I mean, that's just the nature of that business, and that might be your personality. Look, I'm going to be on that floor, or now it's in the room, getting there as quick as I can, and trying to get to that, right? But most business, in my opinion, is not done that way, and it's back to my demand thing. Those bonds are different because there's only instantaneous demand. So it's a microcosm of a second until someone else gets it. So that's a different position. I assume that's what you're referring to, because I took your first question and went to the second. But for me, it's just about presenting an idea that it's really their idea if you want to try and convince them that they're, and you don't have to, you can always, hey, I just had a deal last night, and this guy was in the middle of, it was a bond deal, and the guy was in the middle of the deal, but he wanted to get paid, and he made an introduction for a deal. And he didn't have the ability to transact the deal. But he was trying to scrape together the ability to do that deal in the interim of the whole deal losing. So we called him and said, we know you can't do this deal. No hard feelings, not a big deal. We'll do the deal, and we'll take care of you over here. We still want to bring other stuff to us. We want to do business with you. So there is always a way to do it without, in my opinion, without cutting someone out. cutting someone off. So.
How about some of the assistant coaches? Some of the assistants want to.
Yeah.
Mike, I'm curious, I'm the women's basketball coach here. On your being called the women's basketball player on your resume, was that done to kind of stand out? So
Yes.
people ask you questions about
Yes.
that? Okay.
I wanted to strike conversation, and it was a good, I thought it was a positive experience in my life that I could talk about.
And with that, I know you talked about networking. What advice would you give to newly graduates who have limited or no experience, obviously education? How can they get their kind of foot in the door and kind of make a difference or stand?
Yeah, I mean, I get a resume a week, and I'm trying to think of what sparks my opinion. Format for me is interesting. If you have some crazy format, throw it out. But I want to have an interesting objective line on the top that says something that makes me read the rest of the resume. But short, I mean, that's kind of like a tacky technique, I guess, if you will. Those interesting points work for me, though. But maybe it's because I was one. If I saw in the women's basketball player, I'm going to say, hey, even if I have no job for the person, I would still call the person and say, hey, let me help you. What are you trying to do? And that's all it takes often. I get a lot of friends who call me and say, would you recommend me, introduce me to some people? And I literally say no, because I don't believe they have good work ethic and I don't want to represent someone that I wouldn't. And I'll tell them, I'll say, you're just going to go and make me look bad, so I don't want to do that. And they'll be like, what's that? I mean, some people don't handle that very well, but I do it as nicely as I can. And I say, why don't you come in here and do something, come work for me for a month, and then prove me wrong, and then I'll introduce you to somebody, or something like that. So I think, but those little interesting things, Penn State, I can't tell you how many times in those 27 interviews I first had where 30%, 40% of them said, oh, my cousin went to Penn State. And it's people in an interview, for the most part, want to find some connection with you, and they know instantly whether there's a connection there. So it's all about connectivity points. All the things that you can do are, in my mind, okay, you should know how to do Excel. I mean, that's a given. If you're applying for the job, I want you to know how to do it. But you should tell me the things about you that are interesting that make you different than everybody else.
Oh, yeah, folks, and, look, we all live in the world here, right? And Mike rubs
Sometimes I'm not in the world.
But we all live in reality here. And Mike knows a lot of athletes, Justin Tuck, and I mean, who's who, Mike knows them if you know them. I don't know if you guys know who Will Hill is. And this was in the Star Ledger on July 29th on Monday. And I don't know if some of the coaches probably know what I'm going to be reading here. But this is just a reality that we want to help you avoid, because you're going to be visible even if you go over to Spain or Italy to play basketball. And sure, it's not the WNBA or whatever, but you're still going to be. I'd say a target. Is that is target a word? I mean,
sure.
You're a target for crying out loud, right? I mean, right? I mean, So here, I just want to read this, and I want to have Mike give a comment. It's just 3 little paragraphs, and please just bear with you. This is in the Ledger the other day. Will Hill is a former St. Peter's prep guy. It says Hill admits off-field stress led to drug use, and it says Will Hill admitted yesterday his drug of choice is marijuana, or whatever, a substance that caused him to fail several drug tests and forced him to rehab. He was suspended by the NFL, and then he speaks candidly. He says he's had issues with the drug as a coping mechanism a couple years ago. He's an East Orange native, and he's recently been threatened at gunpoint. His family takes all his money. He's in a new phase cycle that started when he was a child, and everyone reaches into their hand thinking, I'm an ATM machine, and on and on. So the stardom that you guys, or the notoriety that you guys may be exposed to, maybe Mike can make some comments about avoiding being this guy. So go ahead. I thought this was good.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the things that BCM does is help teach young athletes and entertainers what fame is all about before it gets there, so that they can control their brand and their finances and their reputation, which is part of their brand. So, we sit down with Hakeem Nicks is a client of ours. We sit down with Hakeem before Hakeem had anything at North Carolina, and we say, look, when you're a good football player, you're going to probably go somewhere we don't know, and we want to put you in the mindset of knowing what's coming before it comes. If you can see ahead of the curve, then you're way ahead of everybody else. And he's a guy that gets it. And he had a lot of things that were like that. And I can't speak to Will Hill or the fact that he had to go to a dark place because he had no other way to do it. But again, it's back to your network. pick up the phone, call somebody. You know, find a friend. Like, find someone who has no interest in what you're doing and just wants to be your friend, and be able to call them. Your coach is a great spot. I mean, you know, I still talk to I didn't even play high school football, and I talked to the high school football coach at my high school. So, I mean, there's always an outlet for avoiding that particular situation. And, you know, look, knowledge is power. Being able to see things coming and try and help. And there's people want to help you. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
Mike, you mentioned about networking.
I love networking.
Yeah, we had a great conversation.
Yeah.
No, he's not going to name the new athletic facility yet, but we'll get Well, one thing I don't think people really appreciate the value of mentoring. I mean, like, you're here today, in a way you're mentoring. How important it is I had a mentor, or I still have mentors out there, and how important it is to hitch your wagon onto someone who can help you and expect nothing in return.
Brilliant point, and that goes back to my little moment of advisor in there. There are a lot of people, and I'm very fortunate because I have my father, and he has an office when I'm in the town he's in, 5 doors down. So I can always walk in and say something. I mean, the guy's a brilliant businessman. He's done a lot of different things. And so he wouldn't be my mentor, I would say, but that door is always open for a question. And the older I get, the more I knock on that door, which is surprising because I'm one of those guys who always wanted to do it for myself and pave my own way. And, you know, I don't want to be it. But at the end of the day, at least for me, my family is my family, and they're not going anywhere. So finding a mentor, I think, is very good, especially for what you're trying to do that, doesn't have any, just purely insight, you know, take them to coffee or dinner or whatever, and 9 times out of 10, the mentor will pay for it. So it's a very valuable point for me. I've had various mentors, and my partner in Enzo's in Samarian, Alfred, he has some of the best mentors you could ever imagine from a namesake, and it's just because he asked. You just got to ask.
He's likable.
Sometimes. No, it's great. Yeah. No, I appreciate it. That's a good, very good point. I wish I had more. Yeah.
What was the best advice that you got going into college that you would give to other people that are
going into college? The best advice I got. You know, I got I got some good advice and some bad advice, but the best advice I got was to do my best academically for yourself. And what that meant to me was not necessarily get good grades, but learn something. And learn something you like. And that's back to my, what do you like? I didn't like science. I just was good at it, so that's why I went and applied because I had good grades in science. And I got there and I was like, boy, I really don't like this. And so I went and learned marketing. I really liked marketing. And I liked understanding how people thought. And I liked learning that process. I mean, I didn't go to class all the time, but I really... I mean, if I had Enzo as a teacher, but I did. But I mean, look, I would go and I'd pick the classes. When you got older, you could pick the classes you wanted. So once I started picking the things I wanted to do, I would always go, and I would show up and I'd like it. We had a class that was in 1999. E-commerce just started, so all these internet sites come out, eBay, and it was either eBay or Priceline. And the professor came in. He was this top professor from University of Pennsylvania in e-commerce, and we start this class, and we do this whole. The whole class is based upon us creating an e-commerce site. So we're going to create this thing and sell something at the end of the class, and we're going to all become billionaires like Priceline.com through Penn State paying for us to go do it. So 3/4 of the way through the class, this is just a side story. 3/4 of the way through the class, the FBI shows up in our office, and we're like, "What's going on in here?" Well, someone had hacked through our class into all of the college's back office mainframe and shut it down. So the class then adapted into learning about cybercrime and all these different things. So, you know, I guess for me, that's piqued my interest into cybercrime, and just learning new things is what I think is the best advice you can get in there. Try different things.
Well, we have more time for questions, so please don't. Even if you asked already, you can ask again. No, we're not raising questions.
Did I not go long enough for you, Enzo?
long did it take you to switch majors, like switch from the science?
I shifted by the end of freshman year. Yeah. I just didn't, I was totally out of my element. Like it wasn't what I knew that my mind wasn't thinking that way. So, you know, that's back to the advisors and mentor. I had an advisor who I met with and I was just like, you know, this really isn't for me. And they said, well, go sit in on one of these other things that you want to do and see how you like it. And so I had you know, at Penn State, you could just walk, there's no, I mean, there are classes of hundreds of people, so you could just walk in and sit in the auditorium and listen. It's probably a little different here, but, and I sat in on a business class and the guys, they had 4 professors, and I mean, I switched that week. I was like, this is great, I love it.
There's nothing else. All right, folks, I'll tell you. We're going to have class at about 2:30. There's coffee and tea, so take a little bit of a longer break. I'll talk to Mike maybe one-on-one for a few minutes. We'll be here. So, take 20 minutes and then we'll see you in class.
Yeah, and before we leave, I really want to thank Enzo for setting this up. I mean, he is invaluable to what we do in the outside world. We need someone that really understands the stuff we do because we just run. So, and this is great. Thanks for everybody for coming, all the deans and development guys and the coaches. It's a real honor, and you know, I'll come back. So whenever I get the invite.
It's good for your life, okay? I'm always gonna have, so you can always email.
Yeah, and if you ever want to get hold of me, Enzo has all my information. So.
All right, guys, like I said, there's coffee and tea, and you can talk to Mike for a couple minutes before he has to go, because I know he's got other meetings. He's got to drive down to Philadelphia.
Jersey, then Philly. Yep.
So but he'll hang around. Guys, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.